Okay, we're at 6:01, so I am going to get the webinar started. I'd like to just start by saying good evening to everyone and welcome to our third and final installment of Meet the Housing Experts webinar series. My name is Megan McCaffrey. I am the VP of Marketing and Communications, and I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to be diving into our robust suite of housing programs in just a moment. Our last two webinars covered the resources available for landlords and tenants and are available for you to view on our YouTube channel. This is the final session in the series, which will focus on resources for the general public. Before we get started, I'd like to just review a couple of quick housekeeping items. This should help to run things smoothly and keep us on schedule tonight. We have a lot of great information that we'll be covering with you. Please keep yourself on mute. There will be an allotted time at the end of each section for questions. You can ask them at any time during the next hour by typing them in the chat box as well. We will address the questions after each section of the presentation. We ask you to keep your questions generic. If you have any questions that relate to a specific issue, we invite you to contact our housing team by phone or email after the presentation. We will provide contact information for our programs at the end of the presentation. Also, the webinar is being recorded and will be available afterwards on our YouTube channel. We will also follow up by sending out a link to the recording, the slides that you see here, and additional information on our programs and services. So don't worry if you miss some information when a slide advances. So I've already introduced myself, and I will be moderating this webinar tonight with my colleague, Adam Drozd. He's the communications coordinator with me at RCAP Solutions. Adam will be tracking the questions and answers for us all tonight. We have a very talented slate of presenters for you here tonight. Our housing experts. Livette Chisholm is the Director of Housing, Counseling, and Financial Services, and she'll kick things off for us tonight. She heads up our Housing Consumer Education Center, which is the front door to RCAP Solutions and your first point of contact for anyone who's interested in housing counseling and financial assistance. Her team includes Jahaira Gonzalez, Deputy Director of Housing Counseling and Financial Services, and Asher Gerbas, Residential Loan Fund Manager. They will talk about our housing counseling and financial services programs, including RAFT and the Home Modification Loan Program. Next, you'll hear from Susie Rich. She's the Deputy Director of Rental Assistance, who is a new member of the Subsidized Housing and Voucher Program team. She will discuss the wide variety of voucher programs which assist income-eligible tenants in paying their rent. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly acknowledge and thank our partners: the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation, Mass Rehabilitation Commission, the Department of Housing and Community Development, U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Community Reinvestment Coalition, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. RCAP is able to administer the programs that you'll hear about tonight thanks to the funds from the various state and federal organizations that you see here. RCAP Solutions is a thriving integrated community development corporation working with a multifaceted suite of services in other areas of opportunity. Our mission is to foster personal and public self-reliance and improve the quality of life for individuals, families, and the communities in which they live. RCAP Solutions envisions a world made up of strong and resilient communities and individuals, confident in their potential and with ownership of their success. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Adam, who will continue to give an overview of our organization.
Thank you very much, Megan, and welcome everybody. So RCAP Solutions is the home of the Worcester County Housing Consumer Education Center, which is one of the 9 agencies under the umbrella of the Regional Housing Network. If by chance you live outside Worcester County, the Housing Consumer Education Center in your area probably administers many of the same programs that we're going to talk about tonight. We serve tenants, landlords, homeowners, home buyers, and are a one-stop shop for information, referrals, and supportive programs. So this is the map of our service area. We cover Worcester County and a handful of the surrounding towns. And like Megan mentioned before, these are some of the topics we'll be discussing tonight. So with that, I'll hand it off to Livette, Jahira, and Ashore to discuss housing counseling financial services.
Thanks, Adam. Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Livette Chisholm. I'm the Director of Housing Counseling and Financial Services. As Adam and Megan stated, we're dedicated to providing safe and affordable housing programs for the Central Mass region. Under Housing Counseling and Financial Services is Housing Consumer Education Center, which is our HCEC program. The financial assistance that we offer is RAFT, ERMA, and ERAP. And the other program that we offer is Home Mod, which would be the HMLP or Home Modification Loan Program. Next slide. So I'm going to touch on HCEC. So HCEC, as Adam stated, is a one-stop shop. HCEC is the team that when you're coming through our door, they're servicing you and guiding you in the direction with regards to the services that you're looking for. So if you're coming through our door and you're a first-time home buyer and you need directions in that, the HCEC team is going to guide you and find out exactly what you need in that arena. If you're coming through and you need rental assistance because you're in arrears, they're going to guide you to our RAFT team. If you're coming in for Section 8, they're going to send you over to our Section 8 team. So their goal is to get you to where you need to be so that you can get started on your journey so that we can assist you. HCEC also provides our ongoing workshops and one-on-one counseling. And these counseling services are provided to tenants and to landlords. Next slide. Tenant resources. So information that is provided to our tenants surrounds security deposits, leasing, tenants' rights and responsibilities, things that they need to know when going into an apartment and taking on a new lease. And all of the avenues. The other thing would be housing strategies and budgeting. Am I on task? What do I need to know? Our HCEC team will provide you with that. The other thing that they provide you with is resources with regards to whether it be SNAP programs, WIC, fuel assistance, mediation, legal aid. Those are just a few of the resources that we offer, whether it be shelters and things of that nature. These resources are available through our HCEC team, and they're happy to assist you in that arena. Next slide. So the other thing that our HCEC team is responsible for is our first-time homebuyers education program. So since everything is going back to normal, we're stepping into our first back to on streets on boots on the ground and opening our doors to our first workshop in person. These first-time buyers workshops are going to be in person and they're going to be offered virtually. They're going to cover all of the things that you need to get started on your journey to purchase your home. These workshops are certified and required by HUD and CHAPA, as well as our other lenders and mortgage products that we offer. The other things that you will get out of these courses are credit worthiness, down payment information, how to save, credit counseling, and home buyer processing. What is that going to entail? And these courses are broken out into 3 consecutive days and specific hour courses. They offer speakers that are professionals in their field to guide you during this journey. The other thing that you're going to get out of this is the financial empowerment and credit counseling. Our counselors will work with you one-on-one to help you establish your credit, figure out that budgeting with regards to purchasing the house, and what is it going to take to stay on task. So that's what our team is qualified. They are all HUD certified counselors and professionals in their field. Next slide. Landlord resources. So our counselors also assist with landlords and their questions, whether it be legal aid, whether it be mediation. Landlords have rights, just like tenants have rights. So we want to be able to offer in both arenas. And that's what we do. So we have tenancy laws, and these are webinars that we put on through Worcester Housing. And our team actually goes through the motions and let landlords know what are your rights, but also tenants, what your rights are, and how can we come together and keep our individuals housed, because at the end of the day, that is the goal. Next slide. So this is where I end, and I turn it over to Jahira. Jahira is going to discuss with you the financial assistance that we have in place with regards to RAFT, ERMA, and ERAP, how the process works, and how our staff can get you to where you need to be if you're coming through our doors for assistance. Jahira, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Jahira Gonzalez, and I will be going over our RAFT program, what documentation needs to be provided, and a little bit about the program in terms of who's eligible for the program, what type of funds would probably fit your family needs at the moment, and so forth. At the moment, we have 3 separate pots of money that we are able to utilize and help clients who are going through a housing crisis. One of them is called RAFT, which is Residential Assistance for Families in Transition. This is the pot of money that everyone is aware of. And typically, this is the only one that we would service, but due to the pandemic and so forth, we have other funds available, which comes to ERMA. It's the Emergency Rental and Mortgage Assistance. And so the new one that also just came up is the ERAP, and that's the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program. All 3 of these funds are available to the public in terms of applying through email at the HCEC RCAPsolutions.org, or they are also able to apply online as well. Tenants and owners are able to apply for these funds. Next slide, please. Who's eligible for the funds? Any household who is experiencing the following: risk of eviction, utility shut off, doubled up, meaning that you are living with a family member, a friend who you're not part of the lease with. Couch surfing, which is pretty much the same as doubled up, or obviously chronically homeless, sleeping in your vehicle. Those individuals who are going through these ordeals, especially sleeping in a vehicle or a domestic violence situation, is something that we take very seriously, and we process those applications on an urgent matter. We also have the availability to help those with a higher income medium than what we usually tend to help with the RAFT program, which is the ERMA funds. Next slide. This is pretty much how it is explained with the financial assistance when it comes to RAFT and ERMA, how the program is determined in terms of the funding. So it provides eligibility to tenants and homeowners financial assistance to help pay for rent or mortgages, up to $7,000 within a 12-month period. The income must be below than the 50% AMI for RAFT. And like I explained earlier, the 80% is when ERMA comes in. A lot of clients think that because, they think that they're over income, we don't have the funds available to help those families. At one point, yes, we couldn't, but now we have the ERMA funds, which we are able to utilize and help those clients who are going through mortgage arrears, if they are homeless, if they're doubled up, if they were impacted by the pandemic and they need assistance with paying their rent arrears. ERAP is the federal funds. It has to be strictly COVID pandemic arena in order for us to help those applying for funds through the ERAP program. So for example, if there's a client who applies online and there is a question that they do ask in terms of is this COVID related or non-COVID related? That is how we are able to tell within in-house how to apply the funds to your application and to your household. So in terms of the ERAP, we are able to help clients who owe 12 months or less in rent arrears, but you are also able to receive an additional 3 months of stipends, full rent stipends. The other thing that we could help clients, tenants, when they apply for ERAP is for utility arrears. Those clients are able to utilize the funds for up to $1,500 a one-time payment to that utility or vendor. The other thing that we could help is with move-in expenses, security deposit, first loss in security, if it's pandemic or COVID related. Next slide. How to apply for the program, you could do that online at our website, www.rcapsolutions.org, or you could simply go to the HCEC RCAPsolutions.org as well. You could call our team, the triage team, at 978-630-6771 for those who don't have accessibility to the internet, or they don't have a computer or a printer. We're more than welcome to help you with either mailing out the application. You're more than welcome to call the office and set up an appointment, and we would give you those documentations in person. Our doors are not yet open to the public for folks to just stop in without an appointment. So you will need to call our triage team to schedule an appointment in order for us to assist you with the application process. If there is a tenant that needs help filling out the application because they're new, you could also set up an appointment through our triage team, and we will have an HCEC member from our team help you and guide you in the right direction of what documentation and how to fill out the application. The other thing that I wanted to go over is for those landlords who are able to apply for the tenant, as long as the tenant gives you permission and consent to do so, you could do that online. You will have the responsibility to ask the tenant for personal documentation that our program is required to have in order to process the application. So it's just not just going into the website and applying for the program for your tenant. You also have to provide the documentation for the tenant. And with that being said, would be an ID, income, and of course, proof of the housing crisis in terms of why the tenant is applying for the program. For those landlords who own more than 20 units, you obviously would not be able to apply for the tenant, but of course the tenant is able to apply for the funds, and we would be able to review the application and process it for payment. That does not mean that you would not qualify for the funds. Next slide. The importance of submitting a complete application and documentation. In order for us to process the application, we do need all the required documents in-house within 14 days of the application being submitted. If the application is expired more than 14 days, that client has to reapply, that landlord has to reapply for the funds. We are not able to hold or extend or give an extension to those applicants who go over the 14-day period. The other thing that our staff is doing is our staff will be calling on a weekly basis, just following up with the client, making sure that the proper documentation has been submitted to the office. And if there's anything missing, we will take responsibility and contacting the client and letting them know. After the 14-day mark, there's nothing that we could do. So obviously we would have to close out that application and you would have to reapply for the funds. If there is an incomplete application, we will give that last phone call to the tenant just to let them know, hey, it's been 14 days. You would have to go back to the portal and reapply for the funds. Next slide. So here is the list of more like what the requirements, documentations are for the person applying for the funds through our website or in person. We will need an ID for the head of household. Very important, the application has to be completed in full. We don't ask for social security cards anymore, but it is a requirement for the household members to list all of the household members and list all of their date of birth and social security numbers. If there is a household member that doesn't have one because they weren't given one, then that's something that we are able to bypass and work with the application. But it does need to be brought up to our attention of what is going on within the missing documentation within the application. The other thing that's very important, and we cannot process the application, is proof of the current housing crisis. So if the person is doubled up and you're living in someone's home, we just need a letter from that person who you're doubled up, just letting us know that you need to move, you're not part of their lease. If the landlord were to find out, then they're gonna get evicted. So something more like around those lines, just a letter from the actual leaseholder of the apartment that you're doubled up in. The proof of housing crisis for homeowners would be a letter from the bank stating that you're late on your mortgage due to whatnot, your housing crisis, if your income got decreased, increased, or if you're not able to make payments because of the pandemic and your unemployment hasn't kicked in. So those are more like examples of what documentation is needed in terms of verification of housing crisis. You would need to also make sure that the landlord is submitting all of the proper documentation in order for us to process your application. Is not only your responsibility of your own application, but if the landlord is asking you to submit their documentation, we would need you to send us that documentation completed. So we would need proof of ownership because we want to make sure that the person we're paying is really the owner that owns the property that you're living in. A W-9 form has to be filled out by the owner or the property manager who is overseeing your property. Proof of lead is very important. If you have a child under the age of 6 years old, mass law is that we do need a lead certificate. The other thing that is very important is if we don't have proof of that lead compliance, you would be not eligible for the stipends. The stipends are obviously a 3-month period, but it will lessen if there is no proof of compliance with lead. And then just making sure that everything is signed. We have a ledger for all of the arrears that the landlord is saying that you owe. We want to make sure that this landlord is not adding information that you're not aware of. So we want to make sure that all parties are aware of everything that's going on. And it does make sense because at the end of the day, this is federal funds and, you know, our files do get audited. So we want to make sure that everything is in compliance. Again, the way of you sending that documentation could be either by fax, which I'm sure in one of these slides, the documentation will be there, but it's 508-365-6008. We don't want you to get that fax number confused with the Section 8 program, which I know a lot of folks do get both programs confused. The other way that you could submit that is by email, which is the hcec@rcapsolutions.org. Or you could upload them up in the portal. If you're applying through the online portal, you do have the availability of uploading your own documents within the portal, and then everything comes directly to our office. Once everything is received, you will receive either an email or a phone call from our office letting you know that we will process your application, and then someone from the office, one of our team members, will let you know what the timeline more like would be when it comes to sending payment out to the owner or the vendor. Next slide. So RCAP Solutions has counselors who will provide services individually, like Lavette had mentioned earlier, through the HCEC team. If you, like I said, if you need help with filling out the application or setting up an appointment, you could call directly our triage team at 978-630-6771. Or if you would like to contact Yvette Sanchez directly, her email and her phone number is here, and she would be able to help you in terms of referrals, like Lavette said, the CLA for free legal counseling, or any other referrals that you're in need of that you may not access within your community, but we do have access to setting up those appointments for you and giving you the right resources, or put you in the right direction of what resources out there to assist you with whatever it is that you're experiencing in terms of any assistance within our county. And that is it for me, I believe. Yeah. So I'm gonna send this over to Usher. He will touch base with the home modification loan program and give you all the great tips on how to apply for the program and so forth.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank everyone for joining tonight, and it's an honor to be here and represent the RCAP and the Home Modification Loan Program. Again, my name is Asha Gurbis. I facilitate the Home Modification Loan Program with RCAP Solutions. I will give you some information on the program and how it can provide homeowners with the ability to help loved ones and family members improve their quality of life, maintain their self-reliance and safety in the community. Like the slide says, the Home Modification Loan Program is a state-funded lending program providing loans to homeowners and small landlords to fund necessary changes to keep disabled or elderly family members in their own homes. So with that said, all the work that is to be done for the modifications, the contractors must be licensed and insured in the state of Massachusetts. So as a slide indicates, some modifications can include ramps, stair lifts, along with the stair lifts, elevators or wheelchair lifts are also applicable that can apply to it. Bathroom, kitchen modifications, therapy spaces, fences, and other things. Next slide on page 23. Homeowners with family members with disability may qualify for 0% interest deferred loans with a one-time payment. Now, the modifications must relate to the beneficiary's medical and or functional needs. The loan range for this type of loan, it can go from $1,000 all the way up to $50,000. For mobile homeowners, it's from $1,000 to $30,000. And again, it's 0% interest. So basically, there is no monthly payments, which is very helpful. And the repayment, it's required when the property is sold or transferred. So it's got great features. I would like to point out that if you are a landlord renting to a family member, I am on slide 24, with disabilities, you may qualify for a 0% deferred loan with a one-time payment. Now, with that said, landlords with less than 10 units may also apply for a 3% loan interest rate. That's for non-members. Now, some landlords might say, like page 24 slide indicates, why should they take out a loan for a non-family member? Well, it can benefit everybody, especially, for example, it ensures stable tenancy, decreased vacancy rates, reduces tenant turnover, and improves the stability of your property. It increases the pool of tenants who might rent from your location in the future. And it makes the unit desirable to individuals with disabilities, families with disabled children, and the elderly. As you know, being a landlord, obviously landlords would like stable and steady cash flow. So with that said, a couple other points I would like to make is that property must be located in Massachusetts. Real estate taxes must be current. State income taxes must be current, or you must have some sort of payment plan with no late payments. Now, the income guidelines, as it shows on page 25, it's basically, for example, a family of two, it's $214,800. As you can see, family of four, $268,400, and so on. So the home modification loan program, it's a great program. It's very, very helpful. I really am proud of the program and what we can do for the family members, for everyone that's involved. And, you know, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at any time. I'm glad to answer any questions, return calls. You can email me, however you need to reach me. I will be my pleasure to go over any details. Because tonight we're kind of limited. I gave you some basic information. And like I said, at any time, I'm willing to go over more details with anyone that's interested. And with that said, I'd like to hand over my time back to Adam.
Thank you, Ashur. So we'll take some questions now. If anyone has any questions, there are a few being answered by our wonderful panel in the chat. But if anyone wants to ask a question, now would be the time. I'll give it a few seconds. It doesn't look like we have any questions now, so I think easy crowd tonight, we can continue. So the next speaker is Susie Rich, who is our Deputy Director of Rental Assistance. Take it away, Susie.
Thank you, Adam. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I'm going to talk about the subsidized housing programs. Next slide, please. Our programs here at RCAP, we have a variety of programs that include Section 8, the MRVP, Family Self-Sufficiency, Snow Mass, Housing Mobility Programs. These programs are income eligible. They're a resource and literally a lifeline to a lot of our clients and landlords. Next slide, please. They increase, as we see, the affordability of housing for low-income households. It is a very high demand for housing now, and I'm sure you are all aware of the waiting list being very long these days. That has been for years, but we are trying to continue our homelessness prevention programs, and we are currently issuing vouchers now. So if any of you owners out there that have properties, please contact us. We do have vouchers on the street now. Next slide, please. The way it works is almost like a triangle, as you can see from the slide. RCAP Solutions has a contract with the owner, and the owner has a lease with the tenant, and the tenant has a voucher with our program. On our rental subsidy, we pay the landlord directly. The payment comes from us to the owner, and the tenant's portion comes from the tenant directly to the owner. Next slide, please. We have resources that tenants can go to find affordable housing or to find units. And also landlords can go to this site and register if they have property to rent. It's called rcap.go-section8.com. It's a tool for the voucher holders and non-voucher holders to try and find affordable housing. Next slide, please. We do inspections on unit. We are required to do HQS, which are the housing quality standards, to make sure that the units are safe and sanitary. If there are any deficiencies or anything that the owner needs to repair health and safety wise, the inspector will do a report, speak to the owner, answer any questions that need to be answered in order to make sure that the unit is safe for the tenant. Next slide, please. And continuing the inspections after, as I said, they follow the HCD guidelines. And HUD also has additional guidelines, but they make sure that the facility is sanitary. They check the environment for thermal, the structure, the materials, water supply, lead based paint for lead-based paint. If the children, the unit has children of under 6, they make sure they have that letter of lead paint compliance. They look at the site, the neighborhood, and make sure that the unit also has smoke detectors. Anything health and safety, the inspection department will cover. Next slide, please. In continuing with the inspections, the tenant responsibilities are to keep the unit safe and in a safe and sanitary condition. They will be responsible for any tenant-caused damage, anything other than normal wear and tear. The owners also have the responsibilities and to ensure that the unit is ready for inspection when the inspector sets the appointment for them to come out and look at the unit. They also have to maintain the unit in compliance with the HUD's housing quality standards. And they do have to make any required repairs promptly. Next slide, please. The inspector's responsibility under RCAP is to make sure they ID the conditions, that there is no present threat to health or safety of the occupants, that there's non-life-threatening conditions that will allow adequate time for repair. The conditions that may be in violation of the family application tenant or tenant cause violations. They work with both tenants and the landlords to ensure compliance of the unit. Next slide, please. We also have additional subsidized programs that are wonderful programs that can be very, very beneficial to the tenants. The first one is family self-sufficiency. It tries to improve the overall health of the family, not as far as being on the program. They try to it's geared towards self-sufficiency. So they have programs to set up to help tenants to go to school if that's their goal. They basically set out goals with the tenants in order to help them achieve them. It could be, like I said, going to school, or it can be becoming a nurse, or whatever the goal, getting your driver's license, anything like that. The family self-sufficiency program will help its tenants accomplish. We also have something fairly new, SNOMAS program. It's under the Housing Choice Voucher program with school-age children and making moves in a community that is considered with high quality schools or open space or healthy and safe environments. We also have our wonderful VASH program that supports veterans. That's very, very important to us. And we work with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and they, in conjunction, they provide clinical services, and we provide assistance with housing. Next slide, please. Some of the other housing programs, there is the project-based Section 8. Project-based is a little different from Section 8, where as the unit is with the unit is, I'm sorry, the subsidy is actually with the unit, whereas the Section 8, it's a mobile voucher and it travels with the tenant. We also have the rental assistance mod rehab program and the Massachusetts rental voucher program, the MRVP subsidy. That's the state program. Next slide, please. We have information, all of our information, contact information here. about our housing subsidized programs. It gives you the number and the email address. And that concludes my portion.
So I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for your time tonight. I hope that everyone benefited from the information that was provided by our panel. We will have one final opportunity for questions and answers at the completion of our slides. You see here the contact information for our various team members and our programs. And as I mentioned before, we will be sending out our slides in a couple of days with the recordings, as well as some additional information on our programs. So you don't have to worry about jotting everything down. If there's anything that you missed, we will be passing it along early next week. So just a little bit additional information about some of our housing programs. We manage, RCAP Solutions manages 11 properties throughout Central Mass for seniors, mobility impaired, and families in Athol, Boylston, Bolton, Groton, Hubbardston, Northbridge, Townsend, Webster, and Worcester. Our applications are accepted on an ongoing basis, and as apartments become available, applicants are selected from a waiting list. Secondly, I wanted to mention that if you are a homeowner who has a private well and your drinking water comes from that well, we have a private well program that offers a wealth of information on how to ensure that your drinking water is safe and clean. And that's all located on our website. And then finally, as Lavette had mentioned earlier, we are now back up and running with our first-time homebuyer classes. And our next class is going to run later this month, June 14th through the 16th. We are currently enrolling families for that class. Due to COVID, our numbers are limited, so that will be something that we will be offering monthly as well as online, and we'll make sure that we send out that information as well now that those programs are back up and running. And so here we are on our final slide. If there's any questions, I see that there's a couple in the chat box, so I'm going to just say once again, thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank our panelists for their time and the great wealth of information that they've provided. And at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Adam to address any final questions.
Thank you very much, Megan, and thank you everybody who presented. So we do have a couple minutes for some questions if anyone would like to ask them. I see we have some that are being answered by our wonderful panel again. There is one that I didn't see answered about finding housing for handicapped children. Is there anything RCAP can do to assist with that or refer them to someone who can?
So with regards to finding housing, just in general, even for our disabled, basically we can only supply the information that is provided to us. So there are links that we can provide and things of that nature, but as far as doing a deep dive into it or knowing exactly who has handicap accessibility, that would only be if a landlord provided that information to us. We wouldn't know just on hand. It would have to be presented to our organization, and then we share that information.
And so someone asked the question, do we have a landlord list that accepts Section 8? That ties into the housing search.
To the best of my knowledge, only what we have on hand. I don't know whether Section 8, since we're two different departments, I don't know whether they have a landlord list or not. But I know as far as on hand, no, we have general information, general links that are provided to us.
I do know that there is gosection8.com,
Yes.
and those landlords will accept Section 8. They could try that avenue.
Yes, definitely. I was just about to suggest that.
And Philip has just typed in the link for that website. Thank you, Philip. All right, does anyone have any last questions? All right, it doesn't look like we have any, but if anyone has any questions, we'll be sending out the slides with the contact info.
I wanted to add
Afterwards.
something in regards to the person looking for a handicap accessible unit.
Yeah.
I know that RCAP does have units that are handicap accessible. There is a waiting list and they could apply for those units. So that's an avenue that that family may want to look into.
Right, and that would just be what the resources, as I stated earlier, that we have on hand.
Yep.
So they would have to, that would be the only way. And then not knowing what that that waiting list is looking like, because generally, if someone gets hold of one of those units, you know, we don't know what that timeline is going to be before that unit becomes available.
All right, thank you very much. I think that was all the questions we had tonight. Thank you, everybody, again.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.